There's nothing more exhilarating than pointing out the shortcomings of others, is there?
This video was made possible due to those who support me on Patreon, and I'd like to give a big shout out to patrons Christopher Spirit B, Conrad Truitt, Dan Ray, Eric Navarro, Flake, Frame by Frame, Joseph Abrams, Kyle Kramer, Majin Wiebe, Mariah, Sophia Narwitz, and Stephen Dillon. Thank you all for your support. Also, my new live streaming and gaming channel is live, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Back in the year of our Lord, 199.8, my parents went to see a film by the name of Meet Joe Black. Being only 6 years old, I was more concerned with leveling up my Venusaur to the high 60s, because using more than one Pokemon to beat the Elite Four is beta pussy shit. However, they ended up buying the film soundtrack on CD, and maybe I was just desperate for some musical variety, seeing as my mom would only play her one Celine Dion CD on a constant loop, but I actually really enjoyed it and listened to it even to this day. However, it wasn't until recently that I actually sat down and watched the film in its entirety. Based on the CD cover, I assumed it was just going to be some, bland romantic drama. But, wow. The film tells the story of businessman Bill Parrish, who, on the eve of his 65th birthday, is visited by Death. But instead of taking him, Death offers Bill a deal. In exchange for allowing him to live a while longer, Bill will be his guide as he lives among humanity. So Death takes the form of Brad Pitt, because if you get to choose your body, you might as well pick late 90s Brad Pitt, takes on the pseudonym of Joe Black, and embarks on what he deems a holiday. But things get complicated when he falls in love with Bill's daughter, Susan. So, yeah, suffice to say I was a tad shocked, to say the least, when I found out what the film was actually about. Anyway, I really need to process my thoughts about it, so if you will indulge me as I become increasingly unhinged, discussing a movie you probably have never seen and or were not even aware of a minute and a half ago, let's get it on. The film is a remake of 1934's Death Takes a Holiday, which follows the same basic plot, although with some crucial differences I'll discuss later. The remake was directed by Martin Brest, whose filmography is one of the most flabbergasting I have ever seen. He rose to prominence after directing Beverly Hills Cop in 1984, followed it up with the excellent Midnight Run in 1988, landed a Best Director nod with 1992's Scent of a Woman, and then he made Meet Joe Black, which didn't actually do that terribly critically, and even got a decent box office return. However, that may have been at least in part due to the fact that it was one of the only films at the time showing the trailer for The Phantom Menace, so apparently tons of Star Wars fans would buy tickets to see the film, watch the trailer, and then just leave. And then after Meet Joe Black, he directed...
It's turkey time.
Huh?
Yeah, and that was about it for him. Although, to be fair to Brest, it seems the film's disastrous result was mostly due to studio interference. What a shocker! Despite the title of this video strongly implying that I think the movie is an absolute train wreck,
Which it is.
that is not to say it is all bad, just primarily. The production value is stellar. As I said, the music is fantastic. And the performances are all around pretty strong, with Hopkins unsurprisingly being the standout. However, the one exception in the acting department would be Mr. Pitt. Given that Pitt has proven himself to be more than just a set of Hawaiian roll abs, I am going to lay this at the feet of Brest, who it seems didn't really have a grasp as to how he wanted Pitt to portray Death. In the original film, Frederick March portrays Death as if he is in wonderment of being human, as he experiences love for the first time in his eternal existence. Even in the remake, before taking on his human form, he shows a very distinct personality, witty, cynical, and curious. He's been observing humanity since the dawn of existence and wants to experience it for himself. However, Pitt portrays Death as like a cross between Dr. Manhattan and Forrest Gump, an emotionless, empty-headed extraterrestrial. In one scene, he wanders into the kitchen and...
What is that?
Sir, Laura Scudder's peanut butter, sir.
Okay, wait, how does Death not know what peanut butter is? Like, I get he has never tasted peanut butter, sure, but he doesn't even know what it is? How does he have no idea what the fuck peanut butter is? This inevitably, of course, leads to Pitt having to act as if he has never tasted peanut butter before, which, I mean, I guess I don't have any point of reference, but I have a feeling he may have played it up just a bit too much. And then later, during a board meeting of Bill's company, Susan's current boyfriend, Drew, who is trying to steal the company from Bill, a needless subplot that adds absolutely nothing to the film, uses the phrase,
"It's every bit as certain as death and taxes."
You know, that very common, well-known phrase. And in an attempt at humor, I suppose, the film has Joe have absolutely no idea what it means. Which, okay, is he a mystical, eternal entity or a fucking toddler? This makes even less sense since towards the end of the film, Joe saves Bill's company by tricking Drew into resigning from the board by pretending to be an IRS agent. So Death is aware of what the Internal Revenue Service is, but doesn't know the phrase death and taxes or what peanut butter is. Gotcha. However, the true highlight of Pitt's performance, for better or worse, is the screen time he shares with an elderly woman he meets at the hospital. The woman, played by Jamaican acting legend Louise Kelly Miller, recognizes Death for who he truly is. Thus, their conversations between a woman in the final days of her life and the embodiment of mortality itself are fascinating. However, I am sorry to say they are drastically hindered by the fact that
no beer, sister, no devil, no dopey. Everything gonna be irie.
So since the woman speaks in a Jamaican patois dialect, I guess someone was like, hey, we should also have Joe speak in that same dialect, because reasons. From what I've read, Pitt's patois apparently isn't super terrible, but just why? Why did they do this? She is speaking in more of a Jamaican English variant, so it's not like you need subtitles to understand what she's saying. So, why? Imagine you're introduced to someone with a strong British accent, and you, who is not British, puts on a British accent while speaking to them. That would be bizarre, right? Okay, just checking. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't losing my fucking mind. And also, this implies that Death somehow knows how to speak patois while not knowing what the fuck peanut butter is. However, the most batshit insane aspect of the film is the romance between Joe and Bill's daughter Susan. As odd as falling in love with the embodiment of Death is, I feel like this may speak to some underlying self-destructive tendencies, wouldn't you say, Susan? The film, for some reason, amends the circumstances as to how it plays out in the original film, thus resulting in some, how should I say, problematic developments. In the original film, Death simply takes on the form of a man and then meets and falls in love with a young woman by the name of Grazia. In the remake, Susan meets a man in a diner and has instant chemistry with him, but after they part ways,
Now that's a lot of damage!
I'm sure some of you have seen this absolutely insane scene go viral over the years, so you're welcome, now you have context. I can't believe they shot this. See, Death needed a body in order to live among humanity. So he purposely killed this dude so he could hijack his body, which, again, I get it, late 90s Brad Pitt, but why does Death need a body? Couldn't he just, I don't know, manifest one? Like the way Death does in the original film? Is he not a mystical entity older than time itself? Seems like a really simple task for him to pull off. Also, it isn't clear that whether or not the reason Death chose this dude was because he interacted with Susan, but either way, it's really confusing. So if Death didn't know Susan met this dude, then it is an inexplicable coincidence she just so happened to be Bill's daughter. If Death did know she met him, then did he just think it would be funny if he took over the body of the dude, the daughter of the man he wants to be his guide, had the hots for? Was he just looking to stir shit up? Make his vacay a little spicy? Got some Love Island drama going on? So obviously Susan is sent for a trip since this random dude she met at the diner inexplicably turns up at her father's house, and instead of the charming and confident demeanor he displayed earlier, he's now acting like a borderline sociopath. And she's like, are you fucking with me or what? And Joe just continues to act like a socially inept goon, which somehow works, since Susan ends up falling for him anyway. Bill is understandably pretty peeved about this and is like, Death, stop trying to fuck my daughter. And Death is like, no. Susan and Joe inevitably end up fucking, and okay, I get this is a fantasy film, so it isn't meant to be totally grounded, but holy shit. So again, Just to recap, in the original film, Death just conjures a body out of thin air, but in Meet Joe Black, he hijacks the body of Diner Guy. The issue here is that Susan's attraction to Joe is primarily based on that first interaction. So when she interacts with him as Joe, she's basically already aching to bounce on his nuts. Thus, she ends up fucking him mostly due to that initial attraction. However, this isn't the same guy. It's his body, but it's not him. Therefore, Death is taking advantage of her feelings for Diner Guy to basically trick her into fucking him. He isn't the person she believes she is fucking, which I'd say is pretty clearly, at the very least, strongly bordering on straight up sexual assault. Like, I'm pretty sure if Susan knew the dude was the fucking Grim Reaper, she would have been like, you know what, I got an early morning tomorrow, I should probably get going. And then there is the fact that Death literally hijacked this poor bastard's body, which he then uses to fuck Susan, which is done without the poor bastard's consent, so yeah, 2 counts of sexual assault simultaneously. Bravo, you sick gothic fuck. So after they fuck, it completely warps Joe's entire perspective, which, you know, sex with Claire Forlani, like, I get it. And so now he wants to bring her into the afterlife with him. But after being swayed by both Bill and the woman at the hospital, Joe magnanimously decides to forgo his own happiness and not fucking murder Susan. Wow, what a guy. But of course, not before low-key revealing his true identity to her, because what possible harm could the knowledge that she literally fucked the entity of death itself have on her future romantic relationships and or her general mental well-being in and of itself? However, I have to give the film some credit because at least it's better than in the original film, where Death decides to let Grazia live and return to the afterlife, but at the last second, Grazia's like, actually, I knew you were Death all along, and I love you and want to come with you, which is like iffy to say the least. Like, I'm only 23, but fuck the rest of my mortal life. Anyway, the film ends with Joe taking Bill into the afterlife and returns the man whose body he stole to life. The man having no memory of the last few days, not even his own death. Susan seems to realize her father is dead and that Death wants her to be happy with this man, and so they walk off together to a new life, which seems like a happy ending until you think about it for longer than half a second. So Death took over this dude's body at the beginning by poning him with incoming traffic, which, mind you, was witnessed by several bystanders. So like, what happens now? Like, wouldn't his body have been brought to the morgue after the accident? Like, did it just disappear? Did some poor morgue attendant get fired for losing an entire fucking dead body? Also, what happens when this dude learns that he fucking died? Like, he decides to check out the newspaper from the previous few days to catch up on all he missed and comes across a picture of his own mangled body lying in the middle of 31st and Prospect. And even if he never learns the truth of what happened, like, wouldn't his loved ones have been told of his death? In the first scene we meet him, he's actually speaking with his sister on the telephone. So, like, yeah, wouldn't they have called her and let her know her brother got QB sacked by a Honda Odyssey? And then a few days later, he calls her being like what's up, Sits? What's new? And she freaks the fuck out, thinking some Pet Cemetery shit is going down. As much of an uneven pile of manure this film is, I could have at least found some enjoyment out of it due to its wacky plot, baffling directing decisions, and cringy dialogue.
I love your smell.
I like the way you smell too.
Would it not have been for the fact that the film is inexplicably 3 hours long. Even if you remove the entire stupid business merger subplot, the film is excruciatingly paced. Like, nothing happens in the movie. It's an hour and 50-minute film at most, stretched out to 3 hours due to each scene moving at a glacial pace, dragged out longer than my parents' divorce. And yet, I almost have to begrudgingly recommend you check it out. Like, all else aside, I can't help but admire just how audaciously absurd it is, trying to meld a fantastically ridiculous premise with like pretentious late 90s prestige, like Oscar baity cinema, utilizing insanely over-the-top emotionality to sell it, and in the end, it faded into obscurity with the only aspect of its legacy remaining being